Barack and Michelle Obama's daughters keep a pretty low profile. But now, Malia and Sasha are opening up in a rare interview about their famous mama. In a nutshell, they're crazy freaking proud of her.
For years, people have speculated about what it was like to be Malia and Sasha Obama. From their days in the White House to their lives now as young adults, many have wondered, what do they really think about their life experiences so far? Now, at 26 and 23, the Obama sisters are finally speaking their truth, and what they have to say confirms what we all suspected all along. What secrets have they been keeping, and what was life really like growing up as the daughters of the first Black president of the United States? Join us as we reveal what Maria and Sasha Obama just admitted. The weight of a last name, taking a deep breath before they step out, making a quick glance over their shoulder even amidst tight security. Even now, after all these years, these habits haven't stopped. Malia and Sasha Obama grew up under a kind of scrutiny most people can't imagine. Every movement they make is analyzed. Every decision they take is questioned. Every misstep is magnified. Now, at 26 and 23, they've finally broken their silence, and what they have to say confirms what people have suspected all along. The school bell rang. Kids rushed through the hallways, their laughter echoing off the walls. It was just another day, at least for them. For Malia and Sasha, it was different, so what's the big deal? Well, you're about to find out. A line of black SUVs pulled up to the school's entrance, and before the doors could open, Secret Service agents stepped out first, scanning the area. Only after a quick nod did the sisters step out. Malia, slightly taller, moved first, then Sasha. Their backpacks were slung over their shoulders, their uniforms crisp, their expressions neutral. They had perfected this, the art of blending in while standing out. Other kids ran past them, barely looking twice, but some, they stared. They whispered, "That's the president's daughter. Do you think she's allowed to eat school lunch?" Inside the classroom, things weren't much easier. Teachers treated them like everyone else, but their classmates? Not so much. Some wanted to be their friends just to say they had connections to the White House. Others kept their distance, afraid that even a casual comment could make its way back to the most powerful man in the country. Even those who meant well didn't quite know how to act around them. And then there were the rules. No sleepovers unless the Secret Service checked the house first. Also, there had to be a security detail with a gun camped outside the house at all times. No casual mall trips, no sneaking out. Even lunchtime was different. While other kids grabbed their food and sat wherever they wanted, Malia and Sasha's trays had already been inspected. Agents stood at a distance, watching, always watching. When all these were going on, Malia was just 10 years old, while Sasha was 7. It didn't stop at school. A simple walk down the street meant being followed by security. A friend's birthday party required background checks in advance. Family vacations weren't spontaneous getaways. They were carefully planned, heavily guarded operations. From the outside, their lives looked like a dream, the daughters of a historic president. The White House was their childhood home. Every opportunity was within reach, but inside, it was a carefully controlled reality where freedom was a luxury they could never afford. Growing up in the White House was nothing like an ordinary childhood. The walls weren't just walls. They held history, power, and expectations. Every step was watched, every word was measured, and every action had consequences. Malia and Sasha learned this early. Their last name wasn't just a name, it was a responsibility. While other kids their age made mistakes and moved on, their mistakes became headlines. A simple night out with friends could spark rumors. A private conversation could be taken out of context and turned into controversy. Privacy barely existed. Secret Service agents were always nearby, blending into the background, but never truly invisible. School, birthday parties, vacations, everything was carefully planned and monitored. There was no sneaking out for late-night adventures, no walking through the streets unnoticed. Even the most normal teenage experiences had to be approved, guarded, and calculated. Even after leaving the White House, the weight of their name followed them. College was supposed to be a fresh start, but eyes were still watching. Their classmates weren't just classmates. Some were curious, some were cautious, and others were waiting for a scandal. Social media accounts had to be handled carefully. A single post could be dissected by the world. A single public outing could turn into a spectacle. The world expected them to be perfect, to follow a path that had already been paved for them. But what if that wasn't the life they wanted? What if, after years of staying silent, they were finally ready to speak, finding their own path? For years, Malia and Sasha Obama played their roles well. They smiled at the cameras, attended the right events, and avoided controversy. But beneath the polished surface, something was shifting. As they stepped into adulthood, one question became impossible to ignore. Who were they outside of their father's legacy? Malia, the eldest, was the first to test the waters. Harvard University was a place of brilliance, but also of reinvention. Away from Washington, she could breathe, explore, and make decisions for herself. Her love for storytelling led her to film, a path far removed from politics, interning for Hollywood powerhouses like Harvey Weinstein's company. She also wrote for major studios. She made it clear she wasn't here to follow expectations. She was here to create. Sasha, on the other hand, took a different approach. While the world expected her to follow in her sister's Ivy League footsteps, she chose the University of Michigan instead. It was a bold move. During her senior year, she transferred to the University of Southern California. She wasn't interested in prestige. She was interested in freedom, the chance to blend in, to experience life outside of the constant political spotlight, but breaking away wasn't easy. No matter where they went, whispers followed. People speculated about their careers, their relationships, and their choices. Were they wasting their potential? Were they abandoning their responsibilities? The truth was simpler. They weren't rebels. They weren't trying to escape their past. They were simply young women trying to live on their own terms, and after years of silence, they were ready to share what that really meant. Malia and Sasha Obama grew up in the most famous house in America.
So we usually march in a parade somewhere, and then it's a birthday extravaganza.
In my house.
Cameras followed their every move, and their father's name was recognized in every corner of the world. But as they stepped into adulthood, they began to see something clearly. The Obama name was both a blessing and a burden. At first, it was easy to embrace. Being the daughters of Barack and Michelle Obama meant access to elite schools, invitations to exclusive events, and a network of powerful individuals. It meant doors opening before they even knocked. But as they matured, those same doors started to feel like walls closing in. Malia had always been drawn to storytelling. From an early age, she loved writing, watching films, and understanding how stories shaped people's perspectives. So when she decided to enter Hollywood, it felt like a natural fit. But the industry didn't see her as just another aspiring writer. To them, she was Barack Obama's daughter first, and everything else second. She tried to blend in. She worked as an intern on popular TV shows and even secured writing roles, but no matter how much effort she put in, people questioned whether she had earned those positions. Was she talented, or was she just famous? Malia knew what people were saying. She heard the whispers and read the online comments. Some believed she was handed every opportunity because of her last name. Others thought she had no business being in Hollywood at all. It wasn't just about proving herself. It was about proving she deserved to be there. So she made a bold decision. She stopped using Obama in her professional work. She wanted directors and producers to judge her writing based on its merit, not based on who her father was. She wanted to build something of her own. So, she now uses her middle name, Malia Ann. Sasha's struggles were different, but just as real. Unlike Malia, she wasn't drawn to the entertainment industry. She wanted a life that felt normal. College was her escape. At the University of Michigan, She tried to blend in with other students. She had security details following her around and media attention on her every move. She made friends who didn't treat her like the daughter of a former president. They knew her as just Sasha. But even in college, the Obama name was impossible to escape. People recognized her. Some whispered when she walked by. Others approached her out of curiosity. Was she really just like them? Did she party? Did she struggle with exams? She found herself in an awkward place, wanting to be part of the crowd, but always standing out, embracing their true selves. Malia and Sasha spent years trying to balance their personal dreams with the expectations placed upon them. But at some point, they realized something important. They didn't have to be who the world wanted them to be. They only had to be themselves. Malia had spent time working in Hollywood, gaining experience behind the scenes. But she wanted more. She wanted to create stories that felt meaningful, stories that weren't tied to her father's political career, so she took control of her narrative. She didn't just want to be a writer. She wanted to be a storyteller in her own right. She worked on projects that had nothing to do with politics, focusing on creativity rather than expectations, and then she did something even bigger. She stepped in front of the camera. This move shocked many. She is a writer and director, known for The Heart, Swarm, and West Wing Week. People assumed she would always work behind the scenes, quietly crafting scripts, but Malia had spent too much time in the shadows. She knew that no matter what, people would talk about her, so why not do what she truly wanted? Her projects were different from what people expected. They weren't political commentaries. They weren't about her family. They were simply stories she wanted to tell. And slowly, the industry began to recognize her for her talent, not just her name. She won the Young Spirit Award in 2024. Sasha, on the other hand, never craved the spotlight, but she had her own way of making bold decisions. Unlike her sister, she wasn't drawn to Hollywood or politics. Instead, she focused on creating a life that felt real to her. She pursued her education with determination, not as a way to impress the world, but as a way to build something solid for herself. She wanted stability, something that wasn't shaped by fame. Her personal life became more private. While the media speculated about her relationships, her friendships, and her choices, she learned to ignore the noise. She surrounded herself with people who knew her for who she was, not who the world thought she should be. In May 2023, Sasha received a degree in sociology from the USC. She didn't need to prove anything to anyone. She just needed to live. At some point, both Malia and Sasha stopped running. They stopped trying to escape the weight of their last name. Instead, they found a way to carry it on their own terms. They understood that the world would always watch them. People would always have opinions, but they no longer cared about the expectations. They had finally admitted to themselves what everyone had suspected all along. They were never going to be just Barack Obama's daughters. They were Malia and Sasha, and that was enough. For years, Malia and Sasha Obama lived under the weight of the world's expectations. But now, at 26 and 23, they have stepped into a new reality. One where they define their own paths. They've learned to lean on each other, to block out the noise, and to remind themselves that, no matter what, they are still just two sisters who once ran through the White House halls, laughing like any other kids. The world may see them as public figures, but to each other, they are simply Malia and Sasha, two young women figuring out life together. What do you think about their recent decline to carve a place for themselves away from the Obama family name? Xi Jinping's humble beginnings. Before he became one of the most powerful figures in the world, Xi Jinping went from humble beginnings in a modest, low-income Chinese household to living in a cave before he was even an adult. These experiences have greatly shaped the person and leader he has turned out to be, and it's no surprise he is so beloved by the Chinese people. Let's take a look at Xi Jinping's early childhood. Imagine growing up in the heart of Beijing, the son of a powerful revolutionary leader, only to see your world turn upside down at the age of 10. That's how life unfolded for Xi Jinping. The Chinese leader was born on June 15, 1953, to Xi Zhongxun, a great man of influence who rose through the ranks to become vice premier and a key figure in the Chinese Communist Party. But then, the political winds shifted, and that's when the Xi family began facing hard times.
Basically, he was on his own. I think his father was put under house arrest a few years before, and so he was really kind of left as almost like a political orphan.
Xi Jinping was the third child in his family, with two older sisters, Chao Chao and Anan. Their life seemed secure in Beijing, but beneath the surface, China was changing, and so too was the fate of the Xi family.
So it both hardened him, it also gave him a real sense of the ups and downs of power. And I think that's one reason why he's so ruthless himself.
In 1963, when Xi was only 10 years old, everything began to crumble. His once revered political leader father was suddenly purged from the Chinese Communist Party and was sent to work in a remote factory. Why did the party turn on one of its own? The Chinese Cultural Revolution swept through China and toppled high-ranking intellectuals, officials, and anyone who didn't align with the Communist Party's hardline ideologies. For Xi, the revolution cut short his education, as students were encouraged not to learn, but to revolt. The Xi family home was ransacked, and his sister, Xi Heping, was killed. But this was just the beginning. Soon after, Xi's father was branded as an enemy of the revolution, and then publicly denounced, imprisoned, and humiliated. His mother, under immense pressure, was forced to denounce her husband. The once prominent family was now living a nightmare. At just 15 years old, Xi had to make a huge decision that would change his life forever. Would he stay in Beijing, or would he follow the party's call to go down to the countryside? On a cold January day in 1969, took a journey that has been very crucial in keeping him modest and frugal, even after becoming a wealthy and powerful politician. That year, Xi left behind the city lights of Beijing and found himself in the harsh, rugged village of Liangjiahe in Shanxi province. Life there was brutal. The village was backward, poverty-stricken, and far removed from the life he knew. Xi was just a teenager, but he had to grapple with the challenges of rural life, fighting fleas, enduring labor, and surviving with little food. Could someone raised in Beijing adapt to this harsh new reality? Teenage years and political enlightenment. It's almost unbelievable to imagine that the president of all of China spent his teenage years living in a cave in a backwater village. Now, it is being transformed into a theme park-style tourist attraction, as the Chinese leader's past is used to legitimize Communist Party rule.
At where President Xi spent a lot of his teenage years and his early 20s, really, it kind of shaped him as a leader, and it really drove him to fight things like poverty in China, and also gave him that very common touch.
The villagers of Liangjiahe often find themselves telling stories to visitors and tourists about the time a tall, pale teenager worked with them in the fields and slept on a straw mat in a flea-infested cave in their village, and his remarkable journey from that to becoming the president of China. Xi Jinping has shared that his political awakening took place during his time in this remote village, where he was sent as part of Mao Zedong's campaign aimed at immersing educated urban youth in peasant life. In a television interview from 2004, he reflected on how many of his ideas and characteristics were shaped during those crucial years in Liangjiahe. This was where he learned how to be selfless and fight for the greater good of his people and country. That's where he learned how to give up luxury and live a more modest lifestyle. But it wasn't always that way for the teenage Xi. The adjustment was far from easy. After just a few months, the misery of life in the impoverished village of a few dozen houses was too much for the 15-year-old Xi. Longing for his home comforts, he escaped. On his return to Beijing, his mother informed the authorities, and he was caught, arrested during a crackdown, and sent to dig ditches in a work camp as part of a 6-month re-education program. Eventually, he returned to Liangjiahe, but only after being persuaded by his relatives. Despite the struggles, this experience in the countryside would become a defining chapter of Xi's life. Today, the residents of Liangjiahe fondly remember the young Xi Jinping, who worked alongside them during his formative years. They recall him pushing carts of sand, tending crops, and helping construct a dam, all while facing the hardships of rural life. Shi Yuxin, a local villager who joined the Communist Party with Xi in 1974, reminisces, "Back then, life there was very tough. Nobody had enough food and he suffered a lot. He did everything to benefit us. Everything he did was for us villagers." He recalls the emotional moment when Xi left, describing how the young leader cried as he departed. Xi himself reflects on that fateful day in 1975, noting that he awoke to find villagers waiting outside his cave, not wanting to disturb him. He remembered feeling a deep sense of sorrow, admitting, "I cried at that time. It was the second time I cried in 7 years." In recent years, Xi's connection to Liangjiahe has sparked a mini-boom in the local economy. Villagers now offer tourist buggies, sell Xi-themed souvenirs, and serve a president's-set meal to the thousands of tourists who flock to the village each day. Additionally, a 45-part drama based on the region is in the works, though it's uncertain whether it will depict Xi's life specifically. During a recent holiday, Liangjiahe attracted over 30,000 visitors, each paying a nominal fee to see the caves where Xi once lived. These caves have been preserved as part of a tourist attraction, featuring items like oil lamps and agricultural tools, which reflect the conditions he faced during his youth. In time, Xi Jinping gained the trust of the villagers in Liangjiahe, where he served as the community's secretary, but still lived in a cave house, much like many residents of the area. For 7 years, he immersed himself in the rural lifestyle, learning about the land and connecting with the rural poor in a way few leaders had before him. This period was crucial in shaping his leadership skills. By 1973, Xi's dedication did not go unnoticed, and he was tasked with leading social education initiatives in neighboring villages. Despite his budding reputation, he faced the challenges of his father's political legacy, which loomed large. Xi's applications to join the Chinese Communist Party were repeatedly rejected about 10 times in total before he was finally accepted in 1974, a testament to his persistence. Once in the party, Xi quickly set to work to make a difference. He introduced biogas technology to address local fuel shortages, drilled wells, and established cooperatives to enhance the local economy. The villagers, who had initially seen him as an outsider, began to recognize him as one of their own. However, this was just the beginning of his journey. In 1975, Xi received a significant opportunity when he was recommended to attend Tsinghua University, one of China's most prestigious educational institutions. He pursued a degree in chemical engineering, combining academic learning with the practical lessons he had absorbed from his rural experiences, preparing him for leadership in a rapidly modernizing China. Xi Jinping's rise from a humble cave-dwelling background to the pinnacle of power reflects a story of transformation, resilience, and survival. His early years laid a foundation for his leadership style and political philosophy, emphasizing the importance of connecting with the populace and addressing their needs. A new memorial hall has been established in Xi Jinping's ancestral home, dedicated to his father, Xi Zhongxun, a prominent figure in the Communist Party. This initiative is part of a broader effort by the ruling Communist Party to portray Xi as an ordinary guy, especially in a climate where many citizens are frustrated with the privileges enjoyed by their leaders. Xi Jinping, the son of a revolutionary hero, is often viewed as a princeling, a term used to describe the offspring of senior Communist Party officials. Despite this background, the narrative of his early life in Liangjiahe, which was marked by hardship, was the foundation for his image as someone who understands the struggles of ordinary people. This chapter of Xi's life was significant, offering him valuable lessons in hardship and resilience, which would later inform his political ideology. His experiences there are often cited as foundational to his leadership style and vision for China. Early political career. In September 1988, Xi Jinping found himself appointed as the secretary of Ningde, a remote and underdeveloped region. At the time, Ningde's economy was in bad shape, far worse than the more prosperous cities of Fuzhou and Xiamen. The task ahead of him seemed daunting. So what did Xi do? Instead of being discouraged, he began meticulously organizing his thoughts and experiences, eventually compiling them into a book titled Getting Out of Poverty. This book wasn't just theory. It was born out of Xi's hands-on work in tackling poverty and strengthening the local Communist Party in Ningde. But that was just the beginning. In May 1990, the Chinese Communist Party, Fujian Provincial Committee, had bigger plans for him. Xi was reassigned to Fuzhou, a major city, as the municipal committee secretary. His rise was starting to gain momentum. By 1997, Xi had been named an alternate member of the 15th CCP Central Committee.
By the Communist Party of China revealed highlights of the four-day gathering. President Xi Jinping, also General Secretary of the CPC Central Committee, delivered the party's work on behalf of the committee's political bureau.
But soon after, an even greater opportunity came knocking. In 1999, he was promoted to the role of vice governor of Fujian, and just 1 year later, he took the top job as governor. During his time in Fujian, Xi's approach was strategic. He reached out to Taiwan, hoping to attract investment, and pushed for the private sector to thrive. His vision for economic growth was bold, but how far would it take him? The answer came in 2002 when Xi left Fujian for the neighboring province of Zhejiang. This was a major step forward. He was quickly placed in key political roles and eventually rose to the top spot as Zhejiang's party committee secretary, marking his first time holding such a powerful provincial position. Under his leadership, Zhejiang's economy surged, reporting an astonishing 14% growth per year. But Xi wasn't just focused on economic success. He was also gaining a reputation as a no-nonsense anti-corruption crusader. His tough stance against corrupt officials made waves throughout China, catching the attention of the nation's top leadership. From 2004 to 2007, Xi's closest advisor during this time was Li Chang, who acted as his chief of staff, solidifying a strong political bond between the two. But his story didn't stop there. In September 2006, the political landscape shifted once again. The party secretary of Shanghai, Chen Liangjiahe, was removed from office following a massive corruption scandal involving a social security fund. It was a scandal that rocked the nation, and someone needed to step in and restore order. Enter Xi Jinping. By March 2007, he had been transferred to Shanghai and became the new party secretary. His time in Shanghai was short, only 7 months long, but it was a very crucial 7 months. Xi's strategy in Shanghai was simple: keep a low profile, stay out of controversy, and maintain strict party discipline. He even turned down a special train that Shanghai officials had arranged to shuttle him between Shanghai and Hangzhou, reminding everyone that such privileges were reserved only for national leaders. His dedication to the rules earned him respect, and his approach to party unity was clear. There would be no purges under his watch, despite the scandal that had taken down his predecessor. Xi knew exactly how to toe the party line while keeping his eyes on the bigger picture. So, what did all of this mean for Xi Jinping's future? It was becoming increasingly clear that his disciplined, pragmatic, and corruption-fighting image was gaining him the trust of China's highest leaders. What would come next for the man who quietly but steadily climbed the political ladder? Anti-corruption campaign. Xi Jinping's anti-corruption campaign, initiated shortly after he became General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party in 2012, has had a profound impact on Chinese politics.
Xi Jinping has secured a historic third term as a General Secretary of the party.
Aimed at addressing corruption across all government levels, the campaign targeted both low-ranking officials, referred to as flies, and high-ranking elites, known as tigers.
China's leader Xi Jinping launched an aggressive anti-graft campaign, vowing to crack down on what he called tigers and flies, everyone.
This marked a significant shift toward enhanced party discipline and accountability, enabling Xi to consolidate power and reshape the political landscape of China. One of the campaign's most notable aspects was its stringent measures against luxury and extravagance among officials. Xi implemented strict rules to curb lavish spending and ostentatious displays of wealth, reinforcing a message of humility and frugality within the party. The introduction of the 8-point regulation in 2012 set a clear framework, banning luxury travel, minimizing red carpet treatment, and reducing extravagant ceremonies. The campaign led to the investigation and punishment of tens of thousands of officials, ranging from local bureaucrats to prominent leaders like Zhou Yongkang, a former member of the Politburo Standing Committee.
Zhou Yongkang, he is suspected of serious disciplinary violation. He's the most senior official to be put into investigation.
Many high-profile cases resulted in prison sentences.
Former security chief Zhou Yongkang has been sentenced to life in prison in a secret trial.
And some officials even faced death sentences for severe corruption offenses. This approach not only instilled fear among potential wrongdoers, but also allowed Xi to exert tighter control over the CCP, diminishing the influence of rival factions and consolidating his power further. Xi Jinping's anti-corruption drive has significantly transformed the political landscape in China. The pervasive fear of investigations has fostered a culture of caution among officials, leading to the purging or sidelining of numerous political elites. While the campaign has garnered praise for restoring public confidence in the government and reducing wasteful spending, critics argue that it serves as a tool for Xi to eliminate political rivals, consolidate his authority, and enforce loyalty within the Communist Party. This consolidation of power became particularly evident when Xi removed presidential term limits in 2018, allowing him to extend his leadership indefinitely. Thus, the anti-corruption campaign has had a dual impact. It addresses genuine corruption issues while simultaneously bolstering Xi's control over the party. Xi's economic vision for China emphasizes sustainable and high-quality growth rather than unchecked expansion and misuse of state resources by people in power. His administration is focused on transitioning from a low-cost, export-driven economy to one that prioritizes domestic consumption, technological innovation, and environmental sustainability.
China's state planner says promoting domestic consumption will take on, quote, a more prominent position.
Key initiatives, such as the Belt and Road Initiative and Made in China 2025,
shaky economic recovery. Long-term leaders in Beijing have been working to transform Asia's #1 economy with their Made in China 2025 plan.
highlight Xi's ambition to enhance China's global economic influence while fostering innovation and mitigating environmental impact. Xi's lifestyle is often showcased as an embodiment of modesty and discipline. State media frequently highlight his frugal habits and rejection of excessive luxury, portraying him as a leader dedicated to China's future rather than personal gain. His adherence to the principles of the anti-corruption campaign, including curbing extravagant behavior, reflects his expectation that the same commitment is upheld by party members, and he leads by example. Let's take a look at what the people think of his frugal and modest character. Let us know in the comments section. We hope you enjoyed watching this video. Remember to like, share it, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.